to the only other thing that I can think of that's come down here in the last week. I don't know that we want to talk about NIL court rulings and all that business. I've talked about it enough myself on my channel and various outlets. I was going to ask your impressions and then give you some facts and figures from what would be an expanded, not just a 12-team playoff, but possibly a 14-team playoff, and my theories on why the Big Ten is pushing for a 14-team playoff.
I'd love to hear it because I saw that. I've seen a little bit of scuttlebutt on social media, but I have not delved into it. Why are we talking 14 and not 16? Why can't we just do 8 or 16?
Because I've got a theory.
Okay.
So just to catch everyone up, if you didn't see, here in the last 4 or 5 days, it was announced, okay, 12-team playoff, of course, but there had to be an adjustment because of the demise of the Pac-12. So that's been worked out. There's still 4 buys, the top 5 conference champions, not the top 6 anymore. Now the top 5, which would be the Power 4 plus the best of the group of 5, will receive those 5 automatic bids, and 4 conference champions get the 4 automatic bids and 4 top seeds and get the buys. Okay. Not long after that, I did not see this interview on ESPN with Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, but I heard about it. I read the story, and all I did was catch a couple quotes, and a few things caught my interest. Number one is that he made the statement. This is certainly not a revelation because every conference commissioner wants this, but he actually stated this as a goal. We want as many teams in the playoff as possible. So he states that just says, meaning we're going to take, not we're just going to cross our fingers and wish that it happens. No, it was stated with some initiative, like we're going to make moves to make it more likely that we get more playoff teams from the Big Ten. At the same time, his other statement was, we are going to make sure that we are playing meaningful games in November. And I took that as, and he had another comment in there that led me to believe there are going to be an inordinate amount of big games, like the better programs playing each other more than you would think, and especially in November. So I thought that's great to have those 2 goals. Those are 2 excellent goals because you're getting teams in the playoffs to give your league the most exposure, and you're also playing the most meaningful games in November to give your league a lot of exposure, big TV ratings, all of that. However, those 2 goals run completely contradictory to one another, because the more you play your best brands against each other, the more the records are going to be suppressed and knock those teams out of the playoffs. So I thought, okay, what's the next move going to be? What is the next suggestion going to be that he's going to push? Well, it was only a day or 2 later, and this is your answer right here, pushing for 2 things. Number 1, 4 automatic spots from the Big Ten, meaning regardless of what the league looks like, how well the league plays, what the records are, there are at least going to be 4 Big Ten teams in the playoff. So then he can load up on those November games, beat up those records a little bit, and voila, it doesn't matter because we're going to get 4 teams in regardless. And then the next thing was, we're understanding just a couple days after that 5+7 format was officially announced, that there is already talk of a 14-team playoff. Now, why is this important for the Big Ten? And why would they push for this? It's because right now, if you look at the construct of these conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC are just flat out, unless we're all fooled, going to be decidedly better than the other 2 conferences. I ran a video, people, if you're interested in this kind of stuff. I went through the 14-team playoff and what it would have looked like the last 10 years during the 14 playoff. And I'll ask Corey to guess when I get done, how many times Iowa would have made a 14-team playoff. So here's my thought. Right now, You've got 4 conference champions that all get buys. And most likely the SEC and the Big Ten champions are going to be among the 2 and 3 best teams in the country. Those Big 12 and ACC champions could be Utah, Louisville, Arizona. They could be 10 and 3, number 14 in the country, but they will elevate to a top 4 seed and a bye. A 14-team field eliminates 2 byes, and it lifts 2 teams to bye position and just 2 teams, and that would most notably be the SEC and the Big Ten champions as being the teams that receive the byes. And then you're pushing the Big 12 and the ACC to the back of the line to say you're going to have to play a full college football playoff number of games like everybody else.
Completely think that's a stupid idea.
It's a stupid idea.
Well,
on whose behalf?
Well, the concept of a bye, first of all.
Oh, I don't like it either. Yeah.
The fact that we even have, that's why I say you either go 8 or 16. And we're concerned about trying to level the playing field since the worst power, the less top heavy power conferences, or the least of the Power 5 conferences or Power 4 conferences are getting automatic bids. We'll either change that or don't cry about it. Like, why give the Big Ten or the SEC? And I'm a Big Ten guy, but why give the Big Ten or the SEC the advantage of not having to play basically the week prior to your first playoff game and the other team's second playoff game? It's just an unfair advantage in this sport. I just, and maybe I'm sounding like Coach Patterson because he's made the statement before as well. But to me, I would be pushing for no automatic bids if I was Tony Petitti in the Big Ten. You know what? That doesn't help the Big Ten having automatic bids. It hurts the Big Ten. Not the four automatic bids. I'm saying as it stands right now, you've got 5 automatic bids, correct?
Yes. I think the automatic bids are inconsequential now that you're up to 12 teams. If you're winning a conference championship, you're in. It's giving them the bye status is what it's giving them.
And that's what I just don't, because I don't believe in the concept of a bye in this sport and in this format of a playoff. I just think you eliminate, if you're going to expand, go to 16, or, do 8. 8 is where we should be, right? Not 12. My opinion. But anyways, eliminate the bye.
Yeah, so I'm on record for years and years and years as saying there should be no byes. So I completely agree. There should not be byes because you place the authority in this committee's hands as determining who deserves those byes. It's not like the NFL, where I would even argue against byes there unless you give those to the only division champions and all division champions. But at least there's a subjective criteria that's met for the byes there, as opposed to just ranking teams and saying, you're the best and you're the best, you get the byes.
Yeah, to me, account for the disparity between the Big Ten, SEC, and everybody else, not by giving them an extra week off where they don't have to play, but account for that by not giving these other conferences automatic bids. So, I mean, we don't have to give the Big Ten or SEC automatic bids, but as you said, the Big Ten and SEC are always going to have, the top team from each conference make the 12-team playoff. So just, or again, 8 or 16-team playoff. So just no automatic bids. And hey, if the ACC gets left out because Florida State and Miami are still crap and nobody else emerges, I'm not saying that they were both crap last year, but you know what I'm talking about. So that would be my take on this. But you're I'm sure you've thought about this a lot more than I have.
Yeah, that's what YouTube pays me to think about.
YouTube does not pay me to think about that, Mark.
Yeah, to think about the Hawkeyes and Caitlin Clark.
That's right. By the way, can we? There is a question in the chat. I put it in the. You mind if I throw it up here, Mark?
No.
So Derek wants to know about Marvin McNutt being introduced as the head football coach down at Keokuk High School. I did see that, and it sounds like based on a tweet that I saw, it sounds like Marvin was interested in the wide receiver coaching job at Iowa, and I don't know. I doubt he was even interviewed, is my guess. That's my guess. I don't have any inside information. I've not reached out to try to find out, but my guess is he wasn't interviewed. It sounds like John Budmeyer was the plan all along. I know a lot of fans would have loved to have seen Marvin McNutt. I don't know what kind of a coach Marvin would have been, but just given his resume, given the position he played, he does have some coaching experience. It wouldn't have been his first go around. I think it would have been a sensible hire as opposed to a guy who's never coached receivers, never played the position, and doesn't really expand their recruiting base. That'd be my thought, but haven't really addressed the John Budmeyer stuff on my channel either. I've just kind of been putting it off because I don't want to talk about it. But anyways, yeah, congratulations to Marvin. I think I mentioned the other day that I ran into Marvin at the Big Ten championship game and had a short conversation with him, and I need to get him on the show. I'd love to be able to do that, and we can talk Hawkeye football. But hopefully someday they see him. I think that's what his tweet said, was that hopefully someday he'll be able to have an opportunity to coach at his alma mater. I know he bleeds black and gold.
Somebody asked me in the chat, I've lost track of where it is, but somebody asked me if I would take Iowa as a 20-1 shot to make the playoff. And I can't guarantee which way I would go on that, but I would tend to say yes. 20-1 odds are really good to make the playoff, a 12-team playoff.
I mean,
I don't think that's a slam dunk one way or the other.
They have a better opportunity, in spite of what we've talked about with the expanded Big Ten and teams out west making the conference more difficult. They have a better chance, a significantly better chance of making the playoff this year than they did last year. And that's in spite of the fact that their schedule was in large part cake in 2023. And it's not cake in 2024, but it's more cakey than we thought.